Okay, hey Tom, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hello, Douglas. It's wonderful to be here. You're making my day.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and you're here to promote a book. And
Absolutely. Published today, in fact, so your timing is impeccable.
oh, well, great, happy to hear it. The book's called Dog's Breakfast.
Yes.
Before we get to the book, though, I just want to do a little background on about the author. And your bio says that you grew up in Illinois and Wisconsin, joined the U.S. Foreign Service, served at American embassies. Was this CIA, or am I not supposed to say that?
No, it's State Department.
Okay.
I mean, the CIA, I think it's no secret the CIA has people overseas as well. But no, I was a State Department Foreign Service officer, served in a number of countries, in a variety of roles. Very proud of that.
Well, anytime I've had anybody on who actually admitted they were in the CIA, we're always stationed in various embassies around the world. And, some others would say, well, I was never with the CIA, even though they probably were.
Yeah,
So, some people are out, I guess, and some people aren't.
right. And there's a lot of spy books, but not too many diplomat books. So, I'm doing my part to correct that.
So are you retired?
Yes.
Okay. And then you started writing. How many books have you published?
This is my debut. I have a couple more manuscripts that I've completed subsequent to this, but this is my first one published. And thank you to Between the Lines Publishing of Roseville, Minnesota, for taking a flyer on me on my book. But I've been writing, my whole adult life really as kind of on the side when I was a diplomat, and then once I left the Foreign Service, it's been my main activity.
What was the inspiration for you to be writing? Was it just like a hobby? Did you start out like
Well,
that?
I've always loved stories. Some of my earliest memories are, our mom taking us to the public library every 2 weeks to load up on books, and when I was a toddler sitting on my dad's lap and learning the alphabet. So it goes way, way back for me. And I think it really kind of galvanized in high school, reading some of the great American literature and kind of being inspired by that. And maybe with a bit of the hubris of youth thinking, hey, maybe someday I could do something like that. So it's been a dream that kind of I've always had. And today it comes to fruition in the form of a published novel. I've had a number of humor pieces published, over the last several years, like 50 or more. But a novel, is something special. So it's a very nice day for me today.
Did you find the process of getting your novel published daunting?
I will say the mountain is high. The mountain is very high, and yeah, I would put my struggle up against just about any writer's struggle in terms of, the number of agents I contacted, the number of publishers, the stack of rejections. But today, none of that matters.
Now, why did you go that route instead of just self-publishing on Amazon?
Well, I guess I think having it published by a traditional publisher just opens more doors. And I did actually consider self-publishing, and I came sort of close to doing that, but then the contract with Between the Lines came through, and I haven't looked back. So I know people who have self-published, and I've read self-published books, and there's nothing, that's a perfectly legit way to go. But I wanted a publisher behind me.
So let's pivot over to your book. So the book is called Dog's Breakfast, and just
Yes.
quickly skimming over this thing, is it looks like a lot of this was taken from your previous employment.
I would let me say this about that. I was in the Foreign Service for 29 years, so a lot of experiences there, and the kind of social ecosystem of the book. It's a portrayal of an American embassy in a small country, and the different roles of the people in the embassy and the different kind of interactions between them. That is all grounded in my experience, but all the events, all the people, and indeed the country itself are all made up. So it's fiction, but it's fiction that grew out of the well-fertilized soil of my diplomatic experience.
Okay, is there a main character?
There are two main characters. There's the number two in the embassy, the deputy chief of mission, who is in love with his career, but he's stymied, and he's finally driven to the point where he's decided to go rogue, and he's trying to undermine the ambassador so he can supplant him. Meanwhile, there's a second tour officer in the management section who's in charge of the motor pool and so forth. She's just arrived, and she's very idealistic. And the number two guy enlists her to solve a particular mystery that happened, namely that the ambassador's dog, harkening back to the title, the ambassador's dog got ill one morning, and the ambassador has a theory as to who did it, and that's kind of what kicks off the mayhem in the plot. So it becomes a battle of wits between this wily veteran diplomat and this junior officer who is perhaps equally wily.
Somebody poisoned the dog?
Apparently.
Apparently, okay.
That's all I can tell you at this point.
Well, it would be a spoiler, I would guess, if we
Yeah.
went any deeper in that. Okay, well, we want people to buy the book after all, so we probably shouldn't give too much away. Was there any particular thing that happened to you during your career that sort of sparked this story? Or is it just sort of
not really.
Compilation?
I mean, I would say it's kind of an accumulation of, experiences, incidents, people, I will say this, I did serve as a deputy chief of mission myself. So I lived that role for 3 years in the country of Macedonia, which is what we called it at that time. It's now called North Macedonia. And so I had a good taste of, that level and then the different levels on the way up. So, when you're the number two in an embassy, and when you're the number two, it means whenever the ambassador's away, you're in charge. So everything kind of comes to you, and whether it's like, domestic issues or whether it's, war and peace and everything in between, you have responsibility for it. So it was really one of the most, it was definitely like a 24/7 kind of role for me, and I really thrived in it. I really appreciated the trust that the U.S. government placed in me to do that, and so that was certainly instrumental in this. However, I would say that while I was still in the Foreign Service, I once wrote a short story with a very similar character, and I kind of, that was kind of like the original seed of this story.
Did anything happen with that story, or did you just sort of?
No, the Foreign Service Journal, which is the monthly magazine of the Professional Association of the Foreign Service, they had a short story contest one time, and I sent it in to them, and probably wisely, they decided not to publish it because it's a mockery. I was making fun of the system. I was biting the hand basically, and they didn't want to bite along with me.
Probably wise. The one thing that I found interesting, I visited a friend who did a similar type of job that you did in Tokyo back in the 90s. And I stayed on the American Embassy compound in Tokyo. And what was interesting to me was that he rarely left the compound. And if somebody dropped you out of the sky into the place is enormous.
Oh, I know. I lived there for 7 years.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, then
I served in Tokyo twice. Yeah.
It's like just you've taken a piece of America and just sort of dropped it right in central Tokyo, right? I mean, even the little store that they had there had macaroni and cheese and Campbell's soup, and I mean, it was totally amazing. Once you got out of the gates, bang, you're in the middle of Tokyo. Is it like that in all the countries where it's just like this little piece of America that they've dropped in the city wherever you are?
It varies quite a bit. In Moscow, where I served, there's a lot of that, and that's in the case of Russia, it's a pretty frankly, hostile atmosphere most of the time. It wasn't so bad when I was there at the tail end of the Yeltsin era, but in the case of Japan, it's a very friendly atmosphere, but it's a daunting place for people who don't speak the language, and it tends to be expensive. So I think there was definitely that phenomenon when I was in Tokyo of, some people got out a lot and really, plunged into Japan, and others, tended to hunker down more at home. And, that's in the Foreign Service, people, travel around the world, and there's all kinds of different types, and there's all kinds of different predilections and so forth. So, but there is that, your observation is absolutely correct. It is like this enclave, and it's an amazing, piece of property right in the middle of Tokyo. It harks back to, the end of World War II.
If I remember correctly, it was the Roppongi district.
Yes.
Where it was, yeah. When were you there?
I was there in 1989 to 1992, and then again 1998 to 2002.
Oh, we just missed each other. I was there in 93 and 95. I made two trips.
Okay. Yeah.
So. Well, we've got just about a minute and a half, so I wanted to just recap on the book. So you said that it was released today?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess it's...
And if I could, if your audience is to take away one thing from this interview, I would want it to be to learn the phrase "dog's breakfast," which it's a piece of British slang, and it means a complete mess, a disorderly situation. So if you're given a task and you botch it, then you've made a dog's breakfast of it. So I want everybody to start using that phrase, and I want to popularize it. That's my secret ambition. Well, now it's not a secret because I've told you, but that's my ambition. And dog's breakfast. I'm just going to hold this up right here. Learn that phrase, and use it liberally.
Well, it's certainly more polite than foobar.
Yes.
And another without the acronyms. I know government is notorious for acronyms. So.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show. Last question, do you have a website that you want to give out?
I do. TomNavratil.com.
Okay. We will put it up on the screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your interest. And for your audience, enjoy the read.
Okay. All right. Take care, Tom.